Yes? Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, for calling the hearing. Thank you, Ms. Norton, for your hard work on this. I want to thank Mr. Wingo and the tens of thousands of veterans in Washington, D.C. who've served the country. I also want to thank all of the 712,000 American citizens who you represent, Mayor Bowser and Chairman Mendelson, for having a very strong and legitimate grievance about being disenfranchised and not represented in Congress, and yet never attacked the U.S. Congress, broke our windows, stormed our chambers, or caused the deaths or injuries of more than 100 of our police officers. So I want to thank you for following the nonviolent and constitutional path to political equality in America, which is set forth in the Constitution itself. Under Article 4 of the Constitution, we have the power to admit new states. We started with just 13 states, and we've admitted 37 new states, which means that nearly 3/4 of the states have been admitted by Congress, none of them by constitutional amendment, and no statehood admission has ever been invalidated by any court in the land, including the Supreme Court of the United States. And it is simply false to assert that there were not constitutional objections made to numerous state admissions. It was said Texas could not be admitted because it used to be its own country and there was no provision for admitting a foreign country as a state. It was said that Utah and Arizona were too Mormon, were too Catholic, and New Mexico was too Catholic. Therefore, it was theocratic. Kentucky used to be part of Virginia. West Virginia used to be part of Virginia. Tennessee used to be part of Virginia. I mean, come on. Like, learn about American history and you will understand that all of the fraudulent arguments being made against the admission of Washington, D.C. as a new state have been made against almost every state in the past. They were too big, they were too small. Everyone knew you couldn't admit Hawaii and Alaska because they weren't contiguous to the Union, right? Like, this is what the history is. Now, the argument that they're trying to make seriously is that somehow Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, the District Clause, should be read as a kind of straitjacket on Congress and a straitjacket on hundreds of thousands of tax-paying draftable citizens who live there. But it's already been established that Congress can modify the boundaries of the federal district. When the question was asked before, is the District of Columbia, is the map in the Constitution? The answer is no. In fact, the federal district could be relocated to a different part of the country. It's up to Congress to decide. It is a political question for Congress to decide in all cases whatsoever, including the modification, the shrinking of the district or the enlargement of the district within the 10-mile square maximum. But there's no minimum. There's no floor. So could Congress decide for the purposes of enfranchising a new state and guaranteeing political equality to cede the lands to the new state? Of course it could. In 1846, it shrunk the boundaries of the district to retrocede Alexandria, Arlington, and Fairfax County back to Virginia because the slave masters were rightfully afraid that Congress was about to abolish the slave traffic in the District of Columbia, which actually was the main political agenda of a great Republican member of the House of Representatives named Abraham Lincoln, who spent his time in his one term in the House trying to abolish slavery in the District of Columbia. That is a Republican we should all look up to for his determination to bring justice to people in Washington, D.C. So a couple of other stray points here. It was said at a couple of points, there's no car dealership in the District of Columbia. Of course, that's not a constitutional restriction. It turns out there is a car dealership in the District of Columbia. At that point now, do all the Republicans say, okay, at this point, we agree that people in D.C. should enjoy equal political rights? Of course not, because they're simply trying to gin up whatever arguments they can think of. Someone said there's no bowling alley in the District of Columbia. These are frivolous arguments. This is, this is just flotsam and jetsam floating around, reflecting the fact that people are actually while invoking partisanship as a problem, you guys are creating partisanship as the problem. And I know partisanship's in the eye of the beholder, but you are the ones constantly trying to create a political and ideological test for admission to the Union. It is simply, I think, unconstitutional and un-American to be asking how people are going to vote once they're admitted. The question is, are these tax-paying, draftable American citizens who are subject to all the laws of the country who deserve equal rights? And of course they are. It's way too late in the day to be manufacturing these kinds of phony arguments to keep other people down. It's wrong. And let me just say, finally, there is another potential state that may be seeking admission to the Union, Puerto Rico. And that has been in the Republican platform for many decades. So where are my friends there? Are they arguing for Puerto Rico? You want a deal? You want to trade? You want to bring in two states together, the way Kansas and Nebraska came in, or Hawaii and Alaska? Why aren't you fighting for Puerto Rican admission? It's been in the Republican Party's national platform for several decades. So let's see you step up to the plate there and say, that's the deal. Some people want to look at it as a political deal. That's not the way the mayor sees it, and I understand exactly why. But if there are people in Congress who look at it that way, then stand up for what the Republican Party has said. Say you are going to support statehood for Puerto Rico, and let's admit Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico together. Let's get the engines of democratic progress moving again in our country. Thank you. I yield back, Madam Chair.
Thank you. The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Grothman, is recognized for 5 minutes.